Good morning, the Assembly. The Assembly is now in session. Assembly Member Holden notices the absence of a quorum. The Sergeants at Arms will prepare the chamber and bring in the absent members. The clerk will call the roll.
Ashajian, Alejo, Allen, Baker, Bigelow, Bloom, Bonilla, Bonta, Bro, Brown, Burke, Calderon, Campos, Chang, Chow, Chavez, David Chu, Canton Chu, Cooley, Cooper, DeBobne, Daly, Daly, Dodd, Eggman, Frazier, Gaines, Gallagher, Cristina Garcia, Eduardo Garcia, Gatto, Gibson, Gomez, Gonzalez, Gordon, Gray, Grove, Hadley, Harper, Hernandez, Holden, Irwin, Jones, Jones Sawyer, Kim, Lackey, Levine, Linder, Lopez, Lowe, Mainshine, Mathis, Mays, McCarty, Medina, Melendez, Mullen, Nazarian, Obernolte, O'Donnell, Olson, Patterson, Perea, Quirk, Rendon, Ridley Thomas, Rodriguez, Salas, Santiago, Steinorth, Stone, Thurmond, Ting, Wagner, Waldron, Weber, Wilk, Williams, Wood. Madam Speaker.
Members, please come to the floor. Full docket of business in front of us today. Members, please come to the floor. Members, a quorum is present. A quorum is present in the assembly. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. The day's prayer will be offered by our guest chaplain, Assembly Member Rich Gordon. Mr. Gordon.
Lord, in the work that we do in this place, we are constantly surrounded by people, and yet we are very much alone. Each decision, each vote is ours alone. We make ourselves vulnerable to public praise or public criticism. Our motives may be misunderstood, our principles challenged, and even our personhood maligned. Help us to accept that even in our loneliness, you do not leave us alone. You are with us. Because we are vulnerable, help us also to be kind and gentle and understanding of each other. May each of us be a mirror that reflects our humanity back to all with whom we share this time and this place. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. We ask our guests and visitors to remain standing and join us for the flag salute. Please join Assemblymember Cooley as he leads us in the pledge. Mr. Cooley.
Colleagues, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Wednesday, September 2nd, 2015. The Assembly met at 10 a.m. Honorable Kevin Mullen, Speaker Pro Tem of the Assembly presiding. Chief Clerk E. Dotson Wilson at the desk. Reading Clerk Kathleen M. Lewis reading. The roll was called. Assembly Member Christina Garcia moved a quorum called the Assembly. Motion carried. Time 10 a.m. The Speaker Pro Tem.
Mr. Holden moves and Ms. Waldron seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Moving to motions and resolutions. The absences for the day. There are no absences today. Mr. Holden, you are recognized for your procedural motions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 118 and allow Assemblymember Cooley and Levine to have guests and photographers on the floor today.
Without objection, that request is granted.
Mr. Speaker, I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 45.5 and allow Assemblymember Gray, Irwin, Levine, Ridley Thomas, and Wood to speak on Adjourn in Memory today.
Without objection, the request is granted. Members, pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring the following bills to committee. File Item 39, AB 1164, Gatto to the Local Government Committee. And File Item 62, that's AB 1295, to the Governmental Organization Committee. Mr. Holden, you are recognized.
At the request of the author, please return file item 8, AB 091052 Cooley to the Senate for further action.
Without objection, such shall be the order.
At the request of the author, please send the following bill to the inactive file, item 77, Senate Bill 556 De Leon, and file item 80, SB 187 Hall.
Without objection, the clerk will note. Is there any objection to granting Mr. Bloom unanimous consent for reconsideration on file item 75, SB 308 Wajkowski, for purposes of sending the measure to the inactive file? Seeing and hearing none, reconsideration is granted. File item 75, SB 308, is ordered to the inactive file. Members, we have special guests with us today. Members, on behalf of Assemblymember Cooley, we welcome his wife, Sydney Elizabeth Cooley. Sunday, September 12th, is the Cooley's 40th wedding anniversary. Their children and grandchildren are in the rear of the chamber. Let's welcome all of them to the floor today. Members, if I could have your attention, a couple of announcements. Today and tomorrow, concurrence bills may be taken up without the one-day waiting period. Also, no reconsideration is in order on the last two legislative days preceding the interim recess on bills that pass. Members, I also wanted to make note that there are about 20 bills on the Senate floor without floor managers. If you want your bill taken up, please assign a senator to jockey the bill on your behalf on the Senate floor. We will recess the regular session for the purpose of convening the first extraordinary session. Without objection, we will substitute the prayer, pledge, and other opening procedures in the regular session for those items in the first extraordinary session. Members, we are moving to file item number 1. That's AB 3. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 3 by Assemblymember Frazier and others, and Act relating to transportation.
Members, if we could have your attention. Please give your attention to Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is the last procedural vote needed to establish a conference committee to continue our work on transportation. Therefore, I ask for a no vote so that we can non-concur with the Senate amendments. And I respectfully ask for your no vote.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier is asking all members for a no vote on this item. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote. Mr. Frazier is asking for a no vote. The clerk will close the roll. Ayes 1, noes 47. The Senate amendments are not concurred in. The first extraordinary session is recessed under call of the Speaker. We will now move to convening the second extraordinary session. Without objection, we will substitute the prayer, pledge, and other opening procedures in the regular session for those items in the second extraordinary session. Mr. Holden, you are recognized for your procedural motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 77 and allow AB 1 Bonta to be taken up today without a one-day wait.
Without objection, that request is granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Second reading. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11.
Members, we are going to move to file item number 6. That's AB1. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1 by Assemblymember Bonta, and Act relating to social services.
Mr. Bonta, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Members, listen closely here. I'm asking for your no vote on this measure. I'm asking for your no vote on this bill. You did hear that correctly. Your no vote, please, on this bill. This no vote on this bill is strictly a procedural vote to refuse concurrence on the Senate amendments. By doing so, we're giving ourselves the option of a possible conference committee for the second special session. And not to add to your confusion, but while I'm asking for your no vote, please do not be confused by my I vote and the I vote of Ms. Bonilla. which is another procedural move. The Senate is also refusing concurrence on SBX 2 Hernandez, a bill that we voted out yesterday. And thank you, members. I respectfully ask for your no vote.
Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, Mr. Bonta is asking for your no vote. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Bonta is asking for a no vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the vote. Ayes 2, noes 48. Senate amendments are not concurred in.